I'm passionate about animals and I'm an animal lover. I don't directly fund anything that would do any kind of harm on animals. People that abuse children or women, I think it's all the same. We're higher up in the food chain, eating to survive, but I'd rather continue to be ignorant.
What do you think about animal abuse and people who abuse animals?
Yeah, animal abuse is definitely really bad.
I hate people that abuse animals. I think they're weak and spineless. And I'm passionate about animals and I'm an animal lover.
So what about someone who kicks their dog? Would you consider that abuse?
Oh yeah, 100%.
What about someone who doesn't feed their dog enough? Would you consider that abuse?
Yeah, in the form of neglect, for sure, yeah.
What about maybe they don't give them enough attention? Is that abuse?
I think it can be. It can be neglect. As long as you're giving him his basic needs and playing with them and not neglecting him, it only goes so far. So yeah, there's a line.
What is animal abuse? Give me examples. What do you think it is?
Oh, it could be anything from, physical abuse, beating, kicking, or it could be depriving of food and water, shelter. It could be not giving them, keeping them out in the sun or the cold or the rain, any of it. Yeah.
Okay. We're thinking definitely harming animals is abuse if we don't need to. Neglecting them to the point where we're not feeding them or maybe hurting them physiologically in some way. But maybe not, attention's it's a gray area. Mm-hmm. But maybe the hurting is the worst and then the attention is maybe at the top of where we start to get gray.
Yeah.
Is that basically a good summary of it?
Yeah.
You got all the way from actual physical abuse to neglect to just maybe not even providing the best life for them. So even providing the best life is some form of abuse.
Yes.
Okay. I assume, is there a bit of a hierarchy there? I assume physically hurting them is worse than maybe, leaving them outside. Or I don't know, maybe there's
Absolutely. I think physical abuse is the lowest level.
So why is that bad? Kicking a dog, not feeding a dog, what's wrong with that?
Well, I think animals can't truly defend themselves, and I think a human being obviously has significant strength over an animal, and I just, like I said, I think it shows incredible weakness on a person to pick on anyone, lesser. Even if people that abuse children or women, I think it's all the same. All categorized where you're bullying, and I've always hated bullies.
I think that, most people would agree. I guess that's not a good reason for thinking it, but I guess I would think that you treat things the way you want to be treated, and so people and things. I would think humans have more value than animals personally, but you wouldn't physically harm an animal because you wouldn't want to be physically harmed along that line, and with attention to.
It sounds kind of like the golden rule. It's kind of
right,
a moral thread that runs through a lot of ideologies, a lot of religions. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like part of it is there's a power dynamic, right?
Yes.
Humans have power over animals, to abuse them is an abuse of that power. Yes. Okay. And then just to put a fine point on, if I kicked a rock down the street or I kicked a dog in the head, I assume you're okay with kicking the rock but not the dog.
Of course.
Why is that? What's the difference between those two?
I was gonna say that it's alive, but there are alive things that don't feel. So that it feels that it is physically inflicted. It has pain. Yeah, it feels pain.
Well, rock is an inanimate object. Has no. It is not living. It has doesn't feel the pain. It has no personality. Animals have personality. They could feel and experience the physical and even emotional pain.
It seems like you're against abuse. You think abuse is wrong. You kind of think it's wrong because animals can feel pain. They can be harmed. A rock can't feel pain. And then as far as neglect, maybe we think that's a little more of a gray area. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good answer. So it's not just that they're living. It's that they can experience pain physically. Yes. They can experience emotions. I think dogs can sometimes get traumatized even. You think of dogs in shelters and stuff like that. Do you personally pay or fund any industries that systematically abuse animals by the definitions that we just sort of gave there?
I went through a little bit of a struggle. I'll tell you the conclusion I came to. I don't know if it's right or not, but there's something that makes chocolate. They don't treat their workers right, and that's been proven. And then so I started wondering how often is that true? Probably a lot. And then I was gonna not drink this Mountain Dew that I had. And then I just felt like I was getting a little obsessive with it. And I was well, I don't know for sure. And so I just won't do it at all. I think that completely boycotting everything that you are unsure about is wrong, but also doing some research. I think you definitely, you make a good point. Doing some research is definitely a good thing.
I don't directly fund anybody. I may buy products. I try not to, but if I may buy products that I'm unwittingly or unknowingly, the companies are testing on animals that I'm not aware of, but I try not to. Could try to make a conscious choice to avoid those types of products, but I don't directly fund anything that would do any kind of harm on animals.
Yeah, I think you actually made a good point about uncertainty because there's so many interconnected systems that it's hard to find every single product and did this CEO say a bad thing? Does this place treat their workers? You want to do some research. So I think when there's uncertainty, I think that's definitely true. It can get sticky. There's very convoluted economic systems, supply chains, and so there's a lot where we just don't know. I want to highlight some industries that I think there's no uncertainty in, and I'll tell you about them. So do you eat cows, chickens, pigs, fish, dairy, or eggs?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
I do, all of them.
In all those industries, right? In order for you to eat fish, chicken, cow, pig, what ultimately has to happen to that animal?
it has to be killed.
Right. Bare minimum, it's got to be
Yeah.
killed, right?
Yeah.
Do you think by our definition they are abused on those farms?
I think in some cases they may be, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think about it unless somebody points it out, like you are, or my daughter points it out to me. So I don't necessarily think about it, but I think there are cases they probably are. They probably are. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of now I'm almost guilty myself that I'm kind of like I have blinders on to that type of abuse. But you're right.
Yeah. I had blinders on for a very long time too. And so like part of like this, I'm not trying to shame anyone here. I really do I try to like open people's eyes to certain things. On those farms in animal agriculture, generally speaking, the vast majority, do you think those animals, in addition to being killed, do you think they live good lives?
No. Probably not most of the time.
And so you said, sometimes you think that happens sometimes. And certainly there's like malevolent people on some of these farms who are real assholes, What I'm talking about is more like systematic. So like, for instance, like the life of a pig goes something like this, an abbreviated life. When they're babies, they have their teeth and tails cut off. And do you know why we would do that?
I'm guessing so they can't attack other pigs.
That's exactly right,
And the tail, I'm guessing so the other pigs can't grab the tails.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So because they get distressed because we crowd them so much, they'll tend to like cannibalize each other, like you said. And we do that without painkillers in almost every instance. The next thing we do is we actually will cut open their scrotum and literally rip their testicles off. And do you know why we might do that?
No.
So that's because it causes something called boar taint, which makes the meat taste weird. And all these things, they happen whether you're on a local farm or a big farm, because this is essentially the only way to do it. And they essentially never use painkillers. And then do you know how most pigs are killed?
I don't.
No, I don't.
So they're actually killed in gas chambers. So like if you just go and buy bacon from the grocery store, there's an 80-90% chance that pig was in a gas chamber. Wow. CO2 gas is pumped in, forms acidic compounds with their wet tissues. They basically burn sort of from the inside out, suffocate. They pass out and then they're stunned, at which point we usually hang them upside down and slash their throat. They typically are unconscious for that, but occasionally they will wake up after the gassing process. Even local farms, they send their pigs to slaughterhouses where that happens. All these things are both standard across the board and even happen at sort of local farms. And that's also sort of considered to be the most humane method, weirdly. So how bad do you think that sounds on a scale of 1 to 10?
About an 8.5 or 9.
So pretty bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So whenever we purchase these products, right? If I go into a store and I buy bacon or ham, I can be almost certain that that's what happened to that pig.
Yeah.
Right. And so we said 8 or 9. I assume you would consider that to be abuse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just walk me through, like when you hear that, I appreciate it can be sort of shocking. Like, what are you feeling when you hear that?
I'm shocked and disappointed in myself and the industry that they do that. They still do that.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Most of us are against abuse, but we're sort of funding abuse, right? And this is like, it's one that's sort of in no uncertain terms. There's not like a convoluted network. Even like, I guess you think, if you get a thing of chicken wings, right? You get 12 chicken wings. 6 chickens had to die for that one meal, right? Let me ask you this question. This is kind of a weird question.
Last question.
It can be if you want.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, because I don't want
Okay.
to my friends and talk.
Fair enough. And I appreciate you talking here. I know it can be. I can tell you're like a little like choked up from this.
good.
Like that's like,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
Let's say like you're standing there, you're next to the pig. Pig's about to go into the gas chamber, and the pig can talk. And they say, why are you doing this to me? Why are you about to put me into this gas chamber right now? What do you think you would say to that pig?
I probably say, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I was unaware. I was ignorant.
I would probably just not have a good answer for it. I mean, I would probably say something like, it's just what it's come to. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't have a good answer. I'd be like, we shouldn't be doing it, But, yeah.
It's the kind of the food chain. We're higher up in the food chain and we're eating to survive. But I didn't realize that. I'm sure there's more humane ways of slaughtering a pig or a cow or any animal that for us to still eat them, but in a more humane way.
And do you think we have to eat animals to survive?
Not at all. Not at all.
And if an alien said that to you, if an alien had you next to the gas chamber and they said, well, it's the food chain, we're higher than you, do you think you'd accept that from the alien?
I would not. I would not. But I'm also higher up in the, what's the term, more intelligent life. Well, I don't know if I'm intelligent life, but generally we're more intelligent life. So you can speak and feel and a little different than you just think the pig or any animal can't express their feelings. So you kind of ignore it. Yeah. Now, it doesn't make it right.
Yeah. It sounds like you're pretty open-minded. Some people will get defensive in these conversations. I think you've sounded very compassionate to me, very ready to look into stuff. Given that we sort of agree that it's abuse, we agree that if you were there next to the pig, you probably wouldn't have a good answer for the pig. Have you ever thought about removing those products from your life?
I think that the big problem there is, I think that that would definitely be ideal, but. And honestly, I was gonna say that there's like a money issue, and that's for sure a thing. But yeah, I would just have to put in a lot more effort. And if I'm being honest, I'm just pretty lazy, which I wouldn't want to be the case, But maybe it would be. I would like to like say I'm gonna walk away from here and just like, you know, try to like eat less pig, but I just don't know if I can like be honest and like, you know, do that. So
well, that's good. You should definitely be honest. And yeah, it's hard to like, obviously, like I'm throwing a lot on you right now, and I appreciate that. Like, you know, like a lot of these things are very surprising. We're not told these things all the time. So I definitely appreciate that. Let me just kind of put a point on it. Like, I guess, like imagine like, you know, maybe aliens were farming us, right? And they were putting humans in gas chambers, and like you might be one of those humans. And one of those aliens was like, look, like the thing is, I'm just sometimes I'm a little too lazy to do this. Would you accept that as a reason from those aliens?
no, I would definitely say, you know, that's unfair. I mean, I know some people disagree with this, but I personally think that humans are like more valuable, and so I would not be against just like general like hunting or killing. The manner that you described is where I would have my issue with it. And so I guess if an alien came and like started hunting us, I'd be like, you know, I guess that is along the same lines, but the gas chambers and like the way that they're doing it, then I would be like, that's just, why are you doing that to me, alien? There's no reason to do that. So
so you definitely wouldn't accept it in the situation that almost all the food that you eat comes in, right? But you would accept it, I guess, if the aliens were hunting you, you would accept that?
I would still be upset, and I would be like, please don't, but that's the same thing that we do, so.
You mentioned also cost. You think you can not eat animal products and still eat cheaply?
No, the more like vegan that you try to eat, the healthier you try to eat, generally, you're gonna be paying a lot more money.
That's what I thought as well. But it turns out, like when you think about it, some of the cheapest foods in the grocery store, lentils, beans, oats, rice, even something like tofu actually isn't that expensive. Tofu kind of is like on par with like chicken on a per calorie basis. But they've actually done studies too. There was one in Portugal that showed that people who ate vegan actually spent less. There was another study too that said like how much less could you spend if you were to eat optimally on all the diets, and it showed that the vegan diet was the one where you could spend the least. Also, I've sort of seen this reflected in my life whenever I went vegan. I'm vegan, by the way. Wouldn't it be funny if I wasn't? But yeah, so I have actually found like my grocery bill goes down also. Okay. If you could live in a world where you intentionally harmed humans, intentionally harmed animals, or intentionally harmed neither, which world would you like to live in?
The final one, for sure, yeah.
The choice is available to you right now.
That is, it's definitely powerful, for sure.
Yeah, would you be interested in the resource I could give you?
I'd rather continue to be ignorant.
Would you check it out?
I would definitely check it out.
Yeah.
And if you want to help me make this my full-time career, check out the Patreon in the description. And shout out to Ryan O'Neill, Tom Eisenbeiss, Nutbase News, Monstar, and David Jastrzemski.